The Noncustodial Parent. Chapter 1. The parent who does not get custody. Noncustodial/part-time parent. Non-custody means always having to say goodbye. Nobody ever foresees a day when they will be separated from their children, especially when they're young, but it happens all the time in divorce cases where one person gets sole custody and the other is reduced to bi-weekly visitations, if that in some cases. In essence, the children are the prize. The winner gets them, the loser goes home alone. Even though this approach is being slowly phased away in favor of joint/shared custody, even when there is an agreement for shared custody, there are often extenuating circumstances that keep one parent away, like geographical distance and money. You have no control over where your ex-spouse chooses to live, and it's bad enough that the divorce drained you financially, but now you have to shell out all kinds of money just for paltry, short visits. When you've been living with your children, then all of a sudden they're taken away, you will grieve for them just like you would grieve for the death of a loved one. Non-custodial implies that the courts deemed you as the less fit of the two parents, or even unfit. This is the way some people think. Be ready for criticism from the outside world. Ignore them as much as you can. It's not a game of win and lose, nor is it a game of trying to punish the other or cause them pain. It's about the children. Get over the bitterness to try to be amicable for their sake. Children are often used as the pawns in a divorce. There is emotional baggage left over from the first family, even though they probably have new families by now. The custodial parent bashes the other ex-spouse to the kid, then when the kid goes to visit, the ex-spouse bashes the other to the kid. The kid, is caught in the middle, and even though the parents say the divorce was not their fault, the kids still blame themselves. Incidentally, the typical visitation schedule for the non-custodial parent is every second weekend, a few weeks in the summer, then they take turns for holidays, which isn't much when you stop and think about it, especially if this parent was a hands-on parent who loved his kids. Divorce causes a tremendous monetary loss for most people involved, causes immense heartache, but many non-custodial parents say the greatest loss is the loss of their kids, because, no matter what, it still feels alien if you just see your kids every few weeks as opposed to living with them, and little by little, over time, this chasm widens until most kids say the relationship with the non-custodial parent deteriorates over time and they become almost strangers as adults. The general breakdown according to some sources is as follows. Mothers, sole custody, 50%. Fathers, sole custody, 10%. Shared or joint custody, 35%. No custody in cases of abandonment, abuse, criminal behavior, or violence. Australia has passed laws that attempt to do away with sole custody and have all divorces with normal people lead to shared custody. Shared custody in the true spirit of the word is both legal and physical custody, which means they have a say in the major decisions of the child's life and both make equitable arrangements for being with the child, like alternate months, semesters, years, etc. There are a lot of fathers' rights groups around, but the facts about fathers remain. Many have a track record of domestic abuse, criminal behavior, abuse against the kids, or illegal drug abuse, all of which diminishes their rights to custody or access. Although the reports say that modern-day fathers are more equality-minded than previous generations, do some housework and have a hand in raising the kids, other reports say they're still chauvinistic and spend more time on their careers and their own recreation, golf, beer, sports on TV, than they actually do being with their kids. So this is not an endearing stereotype to help predispose divorce court judges into giving them more custody rights, but the trend for the future is definitely shared custody over sole custody. Based on everything I've read and the documentary I saw, all non-custodial parents feel a guilt for not being there with their kids, feel anger at being separated, feel denial, depression, helplessness, cheated by the court system, rejection, loneliness, self-pity, fear of losing the bond with the children, anxiety, and a host of other mental problems that can do a number on them spiritually and psychologically. Everybody says go easy on yourself, take the time to consciously try to heal and move on with your life. Holidays and birthdays are tough without the kids. Take it easy. Don't have overly high expectations. You can't fix everything. Sometimes you have to let go. Accept life as it happens and make the best of it. Love yourself. Accept this new lifestyle. Establish this new relationship with your kids. Call them, email them, and send letters in between actual visits. If you're good to your kids, they might decide to come live with you of their own free will as they pass 14 years old. There are about 5 ways to deal with a divorce. Through the courts. Mediation. Arbitration. Collaboration. Do it yourself. Very few couples are mature and friendly enough to come to a divorce agreement amongst themselves because of the pain involved, the blame game, and trying to cash in on their pain by getting what they can from the other. So the next best thing is a collaborative divorce, which some family/divorce lawyers specialize in, a situation where the ex-spouses are still amicable enough to hash it with either one collaborative lawyer or each with a collaborative lawyer. Distribution of the assets is one thing, but the distribution of the kids is different. You might think that some non-custodial parents are somewhat relieved at not having the burden of raising the kids, but lots of fathers say they mourn the loss, especially if the children are quite young, as they are in most divorces. The ex-spouses should be mature enough to accept the fact that they don't love each other anymore but are still connected because of the dynamic of the children, so they should really be amiable and help each other heal. To this end, I believe in either a do-it-yourself or collaborative divorce with shared custody over giving one parent sole custody while the non-custodial parent gets stuck with 2 visits a month, which puts emotional distance between him and his kids over time, simply because of the fact that they barely see each other. Non-custodial parenting often conjures up the word rights. Just about every non-custodial parent feels cheated because he or she does not have either major custody or even shared custody. They have periodic visitations determined by the courts, often without much say in the matter, even if they're paying full child support. This does not have to be a bad thing if you take the right attitude. Kids are tough to raise. To see them on the weekend when you can spend some quality time with them and buy them off, so to speak, with gifts and permissive behavior, could be better than slogging it out all week with them. If you really want more say, go for shared custody over non-custody by taking the case back to court and asking for it, or asking the spouse straight out for a shared custody arrangement where the 2 of you make the decisions mutually in the best interests of the child without bickering about it. Going into 2 different homes on a regular basis doesn't have to be stressful for the child. It can be an interesting, fun experience that develops his character. If the beginnings and ends of visits are stressful, make them quick. When the children first arrive into the home of a step-family, the step-parent should leave the biological parent alone for a while with his kids. Do the same when they're getting ready to leave. Experiment until you find what works for all the people involved, including step-parents. If you don't get along with your spouse, either get an intermediary like a grandparent to pick them up, or simply don't make contact. Drive to the house and wait outside while the kids come to you. Don't try to replace the child's biological parent with your new flame. Let them either develop a relationship on their own or stay perfunctorily civil with each other without any real involvement. The child has plenty of love for them all if he wants, and he can still maintain the special relationship with his biological parents. Keep conversations focused on the children. Don't talk negatively about your former spouse to your kids. Don't try to bribe your kids to like you more by buying them expensive things. If you have a beef with your ex-wife, tell her straight on, don't tell the kids to tell her. Use a friend to pick the kids up for visits if the tension is too great with your ex-spouse. Try not to compete with the same-sex step-parent. Play it cool during the first part of the visit when they come and when they leave. These can be traumatic, emotionally charged times. Try not to fight over custody. Ignore what the meddling busybodies say. Try to resolve it between the 2 of you as friends. Have respect between the spouses. You need money to able to afford the costs of shuffling the kids around and providing them with 2 homesteads. When the kids leave, don't beat yourself up. Look at it as an opportunity to get a break for a while. Even when the kids are not scheduled to come over, Tell them they're welcome to drop by any time they want. Beware of the ploy that when you forbid something, they say that the other spouse lets them do it, which is why you should talk and come to agreements as to how to parent the kids. With very young children, if they don't see both parents regularly, they will not develop that precious maternal or paternal bond. It has to be developed while young through personal contact. Some kids are actually terrified of non-custodial parents they don't see much. The 1974 Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act gives the non-custodial parent who's not living with the child certain rights in getting access to his or her school records. The general formula for support for the non-custodial parent is as follows. Hashtag of children, percent of net income. 120%. 225%. 332%. 440%. 545%. 650%. If the non-custodial parent makes a lot of money, like over $300,000 a year, the judge may still order a significant amount of support, but the percentage will be considerably less than the above guide. The judge wants to give the child the same standard of living he or she had before the divorce, and if the child has special challenges, the judge will often assess higher support payments. Some exemptions the non-custodial parent can take to reduce net income are federal, state, and local taxes, Social Security payments, mandatory retirement fund contributions, union, professional association dues, health insurance payments, prior support payments, medical expenses necessary for health, not frivolous stuff like cosmetic surgery. Other aid to child like paying for private school, piano lessons, etc. Some guidelines for non-custodial parents are as follows. Be flexible. Suggest reasonable visiting hours that do not put undue strain on the children or the custodial parent. Do not drink alcohol or use drugs while with the children. If you do, you could lose your visitation rights. Treat the children well. Feed them, clean them, and give them medical attention if necessary. As children get older, give them some slack. They may not want to visit you as much as before. Pick up children on schedule or telephone immediately to make other arrangements. Return children promptly according to the schedule. Be consistent and reliable so you don't alienate the children. Spend time alone with your children rather than trying to just go to public venues with them, shopping mall, theater, etc., or hang out with others all the time. Be down to earth with the kids. Don't try to dazzle them all the time. If you can't be civil with the ex-spouse, try a neutral zone like a grandparent's house where you can pick up and return the children. If you're paying a lot of child support, you have the right to ask for an itemized use of the money. Books about non-custodial parenting are at hashtag 306.85 or ho755 at the library. Termination of parental rights. In some states like Virginia, if a parent, usually the husband, neglects his parental responsibility for a certain amount of time, his parental rights are automatically terminated, but in most cases, you have to petition the court to terminate his rights. If you do, there will be a hearing, and if he doesn't show, he loses his parental rights by default. After this, you won't be able to collect child support payments anymore. If the husband agrees to give up his custody rights but still agrees to pay child support, draw up an agreement with your lawyer. Visitation Guide. Visitation/parental access is for the person without physical custody. It differs from the definition of legal child custody. The parent with legal custody has the right to make all major decisions regarding the child's upbringing. The parent with physical custody has the right to live with the child while the other has visitation rights, the right to visit with the child during predetermined periods, and he/she cannot make major decisions regarding the child's life without consent from the parent with legal custody. The separated, divorced or otherwise absent parent has the right to see his or her child/children. On some agreed-upon basis. The father of a child born to a single mother has visitation rights even though he is not obligated to exercise them. In some cases, a person who has no legal responsibility for the child but is considered a friend and spiritual role model, may also be granted visitation rights. Weekend children are non-custodial children who go to the parent's house who doesn't have custody of them for the weekend, and he, or she, is often remarried with a step-family of his own. The stepmother and her kids are often uncomfortable about the non-custodial kids coming over. Should you give all your attention to your biological children when they visit, or try to mix it up with your stepkids, trying to give them all attention? It's a complicated situation. There are no easy answers. All this shuffling back and forth can be confusing and cause tension. Most divorce decrees state that non-custodial visitation be reasonable and leave it up to the discretion of the parents, depending on the circumstances, namely how far apart they live and how often they think is prudent. The most common schedule of reasonable visitation is every second weekend plus one visit. After school during the off week, which equals about 6 days a month, or 5 if the after school visits are half days. During the summer months, non-custodial parents usually take their children from 2 to 8 weeks. They also get a few days during Christmas vacation and spring break. The critical question is, how can the non-custodial parents maintain a meaningful relationship with his children? It is partially due to the time spent together in visitations and the quality of the experience during those visitations. Some non-custodial parents take the kids, then give them some money and doing nothing together with them. If you see your child only a few days per month, try to fill it up with quality time together, doing things and talking about things that matter. In disputes concerning the reasonable visitation of the non-custodial parent, the courts are often so overwhelmed with divorce cases, that they do nothing at all. Try to be on reasonable terms with the ex-spouse such that you share custody by discussing what's best for the child. The term reasonable visitation is often so vague that it is not enforceable in court. Whereas child support is often calculated to the penny, visitation is often left vague, and even when it's defined, everybody disregards it. The mothers, who most often have custody, try to use this as power over their ex-husbands for lots of reasons. In the legal sense, child support and visitation are two separate processes. If the husband doesn't pay child support, that's one thing. You take him to court for child support enforcement, but if you take the law in your own hands and deny him visits, that's illegal, and he could take you to court for that, even though the courts will often do very little to enforce the order. The non-custodial fathers are often the ones who end up paying for both sides of the divorce litigation, even litigation that occurs years after the final divorce decree, so the men are reluctant to pursue visitation rights litigation in court. Many custodial parents move, and even though they expect the non-custodial parent to continue paying child support, they often refuse to tell him where they live, or if they do, they live so far away that it's physically impossible to have regular visitations. They provide a post office box to send the checks to and threaten to take him to court if he refuses, risking a loss of his driver's license, wage garnishment, and liens but on assets. Some judges do not tolerate this kind of behavior, particularly if he or she determines that the custodial parent is moving for punitive reasons. A good judge will rule that such a move constitutes a spange of circumstances and therefore jeopardizes the custodial parent's chances of keeping full custody, or may determine that the custodial parent bear financial responsibility for the move and accept lower child support payments, since the ex-spouse will not have regular visitation because of geographical distance. Another possibility is that the custodial parent bear some of the transportation costs for the visitations in order to maintain a reasonable relationship, since it was she that moved away. The issue of visitation and child custody is very muddy in the legal sense. When a mother denies visitation, the father often cuts off child support. Then when it gets to court, the judge sees that the father cut off child support, so right away, he's biased against the father. The attitudes to be more fair to the non-custodial parent are changing slowly, but the mother with the kids still gets virtually all the breaks in court. Maine statutes have abandoned the concepts of custodial and non-custodial parents and views every case as that of shared custody. They have mediation, where the couple tries to reach an agreement before ever going to see a judge, even though a judge can later overrule it if he thinks it's unfair. The best situation for the kids is for the parents to remain friends and do what's best for the development of their children, to be loving with both parents equally. Parents can lose visitation rights in some situations, such as unhealthy lifestyle in the spiritual and moral sense, alcohol/drug abuse, contributes to the delinquency of the child, commits crimes, does illegal acts, neglect, child abuse, sexual abuse, child abandonment. Rather than terminate all parental rights, the court often imposes sanctions like supervised visits, which means that the parent and child can meet only with a court-appointed third party present at all times. A parent can change visitation arrangements by petitioning the court, where the epub present their case and the court decides whether to change the arrangement or not. The civility of the players involved and the particular laws of the state determine whether the parent with custody will make up a mutually agreeable visitation schedule with the other parent, or whether the court will make it up. If the custodial parent wants to move a fair distance from the other parent, thereby causing a hardship for his or her visitation, the court could stop the custodial parent from moving more than a specified distance from the other parent, like 50 to 100 miles. Each side can charge the other side for violating the agreement. If the person with visitation rights consistently misses his appointments, the custodial parent can apply for termination of visitation rights. Conversely, if the custodial parent gives the other parent a hard time with his visitations, denying him in some cases, he can petition the court for custody or better terms. By law, the non-custodial parent has the right to reasonable and regular visits with his child. This schedule must be worked out with both parents, lawyers, judges, etc., in consideration of what's in the best interests of the child. The custodial parent is supposed to be cooperative and not discourage these visits. Ideally, the parents should work out the visitation arrangements privately. You should both sit down and make up an agreement on paper. Note that joint legal custody does not mean a 50-50 time split with the child. Judges frown on it because it's disruptive to the child. There will always be one major legal and physical custody parent. If that parent violates the safety and normal healthy upbringing of the child and/or visitation, you should know beforehand what your legal rights are to handle the situation. The only reason a judge will usually revoke visitation privileges is if the parent is abusing, neglecting, or otherwise compromising the safety of the child, like he's a bad influence using drugs, teaching racism, allowing the child to watch X-rated videos, etc. If the custodial parent refuses you visitation, contact a lawyer and take legal action. Record every failure to make the child available as agreed upon, preferably having a third party available to testify that visitation was denied. Sometimes a custodial parent denies visitation in an attempt to obtain overdue child support, and some parents withhold child support when denied visitation, but the courts consider visitation and child support payments to be legally separate issues. Both parents can be cited for contempt of court, possibly fined, jailed, or custody arrangements changed. If the child refuses to have any interaction with the non-custodial parent, in some states, this parent can go to court to petition to stop paying child support. The best arrangement is a friendly informal arrangement where the ex-husband can call up the ex-wife at will and ask for the child in a friendly way, and she usually agrees if there's nothing pressing going on. If there's tension between the parents, the best way for visitation is a neutral zone. The kids go to a neighbor, friend, or grandparent where the visiting parent picks them up and returns them. Some points to consider are: who will get legal custody? Schedule of visitation, weekly, how many times per week, should parent call before he comes, how much notice should he give, what about canceling a visit? Can the parent visit at the child's house or should it be away from the home? What about vacations and summer holidays? What about the other holidays, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, etc.? If the custodial parent interferes with visitation, what rights does the non-custodial parent have, like withholding child support payments? Talk to your lawyer about it. If the child stays with the non-custodial parent during the summer, should he pay child support during that time? What about occasions when both parents attend, like a game or a recital or something like a birthday, etc.? Is the custodial parent allowed to move more than 50 miles away with the child? What about emergencies and when the child is ill? What about unlimited telephone access to the child, the rights to see his report card and medical records? Some guidelines for successful visitation arrangements are as follows. Be flexible and reasonable. Do not use the children to pass messages between you and your ex-spouse. Talk to him or her directly. Do not use the visitation, when he comes over to pick up the kids, to talk or argue with your ex-spouse. Do it another time. Do not try to outdo the other parent in offering love and buying them things. Do not undermine your ex-spouse's disciplinary habits. Don't play into the children's efforts to play one parent off against the other. If the child must travel between parents, settle beforehand who will pay the travel expenses. Don't be nosy with the children about the other parent's lifestyle. Do not try to turn the children against the other parent. Know that children may be confused and emotional about the concept of visitation. If there are visitation problems, keep a record of them in a notebook. Some guidelines for custodial parents are as follows. Have the children ready when agreed for. Pick up or, if necessary, call as soon as possible to change the arrangements. Be there for delivery. Take care of the children. Make them presentable for the visits. Do not drink alcohol or use drugs while with the children. You can lose custody this way. Non-custodial parents' websites. verywellfamily.com, ancpr.org/ancprindex.html, non-custodial parents' rights. answers.com/topic/custodial-parent. associatedcontent.com/article/33678/parenting_help_to_do_your.html, what not to do to your children if you are the non-custodial parent. chat.lawinfo.com. Child support laws state-by-state.com/is there any help for non-custodial parents comments.html. dadsrights.com. divorcehelpnetwork.com. divorcesource.com. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_issues_affecting_separated_parents. familyeducation.com/divorce/custody. family-law.lawyers.com/child-support/non-college-expense-obligation.html. forum.free-advice.com/child-visitation-37/lack-non-custodial-parent-help-42508.html. forums.families.com, non-custodial parent. ilchildsupport.com/non-custodial_parent_cs.html, non-custodial parent services, the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services. iowafathers.com, a help network for non-custodial parents. legalhelpintx.com/law_office/FAQ/visitation-non-custodial.html. proactivechange.com/divorce/parenting/non-custodial.htm. responsibility to visit the children. theoline.com/family/07061981.htm, if the non-custodial parent moves away, it is his own. worldlawdirect.com/forum/family-law-matters/16763-more-help-non-custodial-parent.html.